Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is the New Mutants Classic Trade Paperback, Volume 6. And today we are going over the New Mutants, number 41, right here. This is written, obviously, these early New Mutants issues were written by Chris Claremont. This is breakdowns, which I'm not sure if that means Jackson Guice did very loose pencils. I'm not sure. Inks by Terry Austin. And, edited by Ann Nesenti, editor-in-chief, Mr. Jim Shooter. So this issue right here is one of many issues that Chris Claremont did that I absolutely love. And he did quite a few of these sort of one-shot issues where it only focused on one character of either the X-Men, the New Mutants, or whatever team group he was doing. And they were usually fantastic. And this particular one to me stands out very, very well, mainly because it is my favorite character, Dani Moonstar, but it's also an amazing story. And it is a great example of how a writer can showcase a character who is, completely different from themselves, but ultimately tell a story that is really about the commonality of that character with you, the reader, right? So obviously Chris Claremont is a man. He is also white and is from New York City. Dani Moonstar is a woman, Native American, Cheyenne in particular, and she's from Colorado. Very, very different. Yet, the skill that Claremont shows here, and really his understanding of the character since he helped create this character, really comes through in this issue. And I'm going to stop blathering. Let's just get into it. We got a great opening right here. Chris Claremont doing his usual narrations that he does that they just flourish and they add so much depth to the story. She's flying Brightwind. So this occurs during the time after the events of Secret Wars 2. The New Mutants, after basically, spoilers, getting murdered by the Beyonder, and then suddenly revived, they're kind of going through a lot of soul searching, and Dani Moonstar, unfortunately, is going through a lot of soul searching herself because the events of both the New Mutants Special and Secret Wars 2 is having an enormous effect on her. So Chris Claremont here basically runs a clinic on how to use thought balloons, right? Or thought bubbles, however you want to call them. Now, I've made mention before about my frustration with modern comics and why they've kind of abandoned this type of storytelling, but this is how you do it, right? So Dani Moonstar's flying back through basically ice-cold, high-altitude weather up in the air in her horse, right? She's not going to be talking, right? So how do you showcase all of this inner conflict, this depth of character in these, panels of her just flying around, imagining these things? Very simple, through, thought balloons. And he does it very well. And Chris Claremont also, in these first couple pages, accomplishes the Jim Shooter requirement of also explaining who she is, what her situation is, what the situation of the entire New Mutants is. He even goes into detail later on in these panels when she gets into the stable, her long-term past with the New Mutants, which is fantastic because this is basically a single issue story about Dani Moonstar. So she ends up back. Brightwind takes her back to Colorado. She reunites with her parents, and then we get a lot of girly kind of talk with Dani Moonstar. Really helps the character too. It really makes her more approachable and very human, which is something I'm going to repeat a lot here. So it turns out a lot of more bad weather's coming down the road, so her parents got to deal with getting ready for the blizzard. But in the meantime, she doesn't really have any clothing, so they tell her, hey, go to the mall, go have some fun. So she heads over here, and this photo, by the way, or this panel, by the way, is fantastic. This basically looks like Boulder, Colorado. So very well done by Jackson Guice here. And we get some more humor and also the typical Chris Claremont inner monologuing of the character, their conflicts, their struggles, basically trying to think about how they're dealing with issues, that internal struggle that Chris Claremont is really known for with all of his characters. And you get the essential conflict of the story here, the introduction of Pat Roberts. So obviously he's being fairly racist and also kind of an asshole to her. Now I'm saying these things and it sounds like, well, isn't this kind of sounding like your boy Zach when he's complaining about modern Marvel? Wait up a little bit. This story is a lot deeper than that. So they get into it, and she starts to reveal something that, there's a past between these two, and something happened right here. So, but now that she's a Valkyrie, she sees that the image of death is behind him. Pat Roberts will die. And she freaks out. She runs away. He freaking goes berserk and lunatic status, threatening to even kill her and everything. Even to the point where his friends are like, whoa, you're freaking nuts right here. And then she's sort of in her mind like, what am I going to do? I know he's going to die, but at the same time, he hates me, right? And you get some great visual storytelling by Jackson. And you also get some background story here. Essentially, she had, after her parents disappeared because of the demon bear, she lived with Pat, and then she accidentally used her powers, which she had a problem with before she joined the New Mutants, and basically embarrassed him and destroyed him in front of all of his family. And that sort of grudge between the two was never really healed before she ran away. Anyhow, she gets an SOS from him. He's crashed in the mountains. She takes her over to a cave because a big blizzard's coming in. She can't carry him on Brightwind. And then this is where things get very interesting, and you get the huge humanity of it all, right? Like, Dani Moonstar, so in the previous, she basically got assaulted by this guy, a lot of racist language used against her and everything. But despite that, when this person is in trouble, she still goes over and she still attempts to save him. This is what it means to be a hero, right? Like, in today's Marvel, they wouldn't have heroes actually do this just because the lesson is, take that, you racist incel. But Dani Moonstar is not a character. She's not for lack of a better term, to use your boy Zach's term, she's not a purse puppy. She's a real human being. And it shows here. She actually helps him, and her powers accidentally trigger, and she finds out something very, stunning in that he both, when she pulls out his greatest desires and fears, he both pulls out an image of him killing her and an image of him marrying her. And she finds out the truth is that, he was a friend and he trusted her. And when those powers were used and distorted in front of his whole family and everybody, he lost and he was hurt, and he never forgave her for that. And it's really a tragedy of the concept of having mutant powers and not knowing how to use them, more so than a tragedy of the Native American or her Native American background, in a sense, right? So here she realizes that she can save this relationship. Why she wants to is sort of interesting in and of itself as an observation. But she decides to, fight back. Death appears, in this case, being affected by her illusion powers. And they have essentially a gunfight here, which is where the cover comes from. It's actually pretty cool visual storytelling right here. And this is great illusion right here where you kind of have this illusion of her talking to Pat and him making some regrets or comments regretting what happened. And then they finally move over to the hospital. He's getting treated. And as she's waiting for him to recover, this image shows up. And this dialogue here is haunting. And it is an example of how powerful writing can be. The imagery is great too, by the way. Don't get me wrong. The visual storytelling by Jackson Guice and Terry Austin here is fantastic. But the words and the dialogue handled by Chris Claremont, this whole issue is just a masterclass in using all the tools available to you in comic book writing. And I don't know if anyone here reading or watching this video is interested in being a writer, but you really should read this issue because this issue is fantastic. Look at it. This Indian woman just suddenly shows away, and then she finds out this is death. And then she freaks out. She jumps over and says, "Hey, I'm not going to let you take his life." But the woman, the Native American woman, Death, or the image of Death, right, talks to her and says, "Hey, like, this is not, you know, you can do what you want, and I understand your desire to save your friend, but he's past saving. He's, you know, he's in a coma. He's never going to awake. You know, I offer that person, you know, relief, you know, and so that they can pass on. You know, you can fight and you might win today, but you'll never win in the long run. So let him go and, you know, be and let them be at peace. And it's amazing imagery right here. And then you get that, you know, beep, that kind of death scene, right? You know, she returns and you get the usual Chris Claremont inner monologue. It's a sad story, but it's a great story right here in that it kind of shows who Dani Moonstar really was in these early issues. She was a flawed character, for sure. Often not very stubborn, rebellious, very proud, not willing to accept help from others or admit fault in some ways. But in this issue, you kind of see through her actions that ultimately she is a human being and also a hero. And she will do, you know, the right thing to the best of her ability and fight to the death. You know, I love this right here. Oh, ye of little faith, I can win. You know, I've beaten death before. I'm willing to go with them. It's like, I'm not willing to let you. Like that is a strong female character. Not the garbage in today's comics. This was how it was done. So, masterful issue by Chris Claremont. Freaking love it. You know, just amazing. Really makes the character Dani Moonstar just unbelievable, in my opinion. Anyhow, let's get to the art right here. So I was kind of messing with the angles for the scene where Death appears, right? So here she is kind of looking into the fire, right? I was kind of working on more backgrounds right here, like how does a cave work? And this one's okay. I think if I would, you know, continue to work on this, I would keep adding more detail to the caves here. Also, not necessarily sure if her body's like the right size. I think she actually needs to be a little bit taller. I keep screwing this up with some of these perspectives, but yeah, he's technically okay. But yeah, and then I was kind of messing with different ways of drawing faces. So I was kind of trying to like, I want to render noses and mouths more, at least differently than what I did. It turned out okay, you know, and here's like room for like bubbles. You always want to make sure that. And in this panel, I was kind of working on light effects, you know, like you like if you remember light coming from a source, it usually has like these circling spectacle effects, like dispersion in a way, right? I was trying to mess with that with some of my templates and try to play around with it some more to give it a better feel. Not bad. I think I need to put better detail into this eye though. This kind of still, it doesn't feel like a full circle, at least the way I did the shading here. This panel is pretty cool too. I kind of like it in a way. So she's kind of turning around. She kind of notices after the flash of light, here comes Death, ready to take him out. The only thing that kind of sucks about this panel is his foot is technically kind of disappearing into the ground here. I kind of like try to save face by putting this rock in the way, but it still looks really silly. I think ultimately what's going to have to, like, if I was going to fix this, I think I would need to, like, shift everything down to actually capture his height correctly. Because if you take kind of the vanishing point right here, like, it, like, matches up, like, barely, honestly. But I had a bunch of fun actually drawing this. This was actually kind of cool to do. Always love doing these kind of more like storyboard kind of things. Anyhow, that's the video. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on the New Mutants number 41 or my art, leave it down below. And I will see you next time.